With the AP item changes going live for this patch, we've got a bunch of new strong builds popping up that you have to try. On top of this, there's a new AP hybrid Briar setup that is performing incredibly well, so we'll have all this and much more as we bring you guys 10 of the most OP builds for 25.10. And it's no secret that League's ranking system is designed to trap you. It pulls you in with those games where everything clicks and you carry hard, only to balance it with frustrating matches that feel unwinnable from the start. This cycle keeps you grinding, hoping for change, but never quite breaking through. What most players don't realize is that escaping this cycle requires specific skills and strategies tailored to your exact rank. That's where SkillCapped comes in. We're the only service in this industry that has invested millions of dollars into identifying what actually works at every tier. Our challenger coaches have mapped out the best and most useful strategies that turn hard-stuck players into consistent climbers. And you can access all this expertise for less than $9 a month with our annual plan. We're so confident in our method that our business model depends on your success. Climb at least 5 divisions while actively using SkillCapped or claim a full refund. No questions asked. Stop wasting time on the ranked treadmill. Start climbing today with proven strategies designed specifically to break through your current rank. Check us out by clicking the link in the top right corner or in the description below. And with that being said, let's get into it. So with those AP item changes being pushed live for 25.10, we are noticing a new trend for Mordekaiser. Liandry's got nerfed while Bloodletters was buffed, so this is leading to a shift in priority for Mord builds. It's not even looking like Liandry's is a viable option for Mordekaiser anymore, as it's lost over 1% win rate on the champ. Bloodletters, on the other hand, is performing incredibly well, and the core build that is on the rise for this patch actually completely bypasses Liandry's as a core pickup. What's been working best on Mord so far in 25.10 is a Rylai's Rush into Riftmaker 2nd and Bloodletters 3rd. Bloodletters definitely slots in best in that 3rd slot because it provides you with the 30% magic resist shred, and by the time you reach 3 items, it will be at the stage in the game where enemies will have a good amount of base magic resist or are likely to have purchased some magic resist as well. The rune page to go along with this build consists of Conqueror followed by Triumph, Haste, and Last Stand, while Second Wind and Revitalize are for secondaries. Lichbane has always been a pretty niche but strong pickup on Kayle, and in 25.10, it's an item you don't want to be ignoring. Now, usually Kayle players would slot in Lichbane as a 3rd purchase in recent patches, but due to the buffs it got this patch, it's actually way stronger as a 2nd item. Lichbane is now 300 gold cheaper, while Kayle's rush item in Nashor's Tooth is also 100 gold cheaper. So, by going for a Nashor's into Lichbane 2-item core, you're reaching that spike 400 gold earlier than before, and it's made the item combination a lot stronger. So far in 25.10, the 3-item core leading to the best results on Kayle consists of a Nashor's Rush into Lichbane 2nd and Rabadon's 3rd. Besides Lichbane being cheaper for this patch, just buying it earlier and getting access to that 4% movement speed is really nice for Kayle as well. Movement speed from Swiftness Boots and Lichbane help Kayle stay nice and mobile in the mid-game, as her main weakness is of course the fact she lacks a gap closer. When playing this Nashor's into Lichbane core on Kayle, you are going to have stronger upfront burst damage, so opting for Press the Attack as your keystone rune instead of Lethal Tempo to amp that burst even more works great. There's a really weird Briar build that has been popping up this patch, and it consists of taking Riftmaker as a core item. Now, we're not entirely sure who was the first player to start running this setup, so if any of you guys know, then be sure to let us know in the comments below. So it's Riftmaker as the 3rd purchase that's working incredibly well on Briar, with Titanic Hydra and Black Cleaver as your 1st and 2nd pickups. Now, of course, Riftmaker is an item that provides you with 70 ability power, so wouldn't this make it pretty trash on Briar? Well, not exactly, because Briar actually has some really good AP scaling on her abilities. Briar Q has a 60% AP ratio, her E has a 100% AP ratio, and R is at 120%. So you're not actually wasting the AP from Riftmaker at all, and then get to heavily benefit from its passive. It's the Riftmaker passive that works so well on Briar, because for each second that you're in combat, you deal bonus damage and also gain Omnivamp. By going for Titanic into Black Cleaver prior to Riftmaker, you have so much durability, which means you're going to be a menace in extended fights, and able to maximize the value of Riftmaker's stacking passive. The 2nd passive on Riftmaker converts 2% of your bonus health into ability power, so because Titanic, Black Cleaver, and Riftmaker have a combined 1350 health, you're going to gain an extra 27 ability power from that passive. So overall, definitely a more unusual build, but one that has seen great results for 25.10, so try it out before it catches on. The rune page you'll want to run with the build is Press the Attack with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace, followed by Free Boots and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. So in our pre-patch tier list for 25.10, we noted that champions who can take advantage of Lichbane are likely the ones to see the biggest spikes in power, and a bit of a more underrated champ with the item is Elise. So what we're seeing so far as a result of the Lichbane changes is that the item is outperforming Storm Surge as Elise's rush item. Even in last patch, Lichbane was winning more than Storm Surge on Elise, but the gap has become even larger for 25.10. Elise is a jungler who can really benefit from the Spellblade passive proc that Lichbane provides. Since Elise has 2 different forms and technically 6 different basic abilities, she's able to constantly proc the Spellblade passive whenever it's off cooldown. Storm Surge will offer up a bit more upfront burst, but if you're in a more extended fight, then Lichbane will be be far superior. So Lich Bane will definitely be most optimal on Elise if you're playing into a comp who has more bruisers or tanks. If the enemy team is entirely squishy, then you can make an argument for rushing Storm Surge, but Lich Bane should not be slept on against more durable comps. A really nice 3-item core that you can look to run on Elise against tankier comps is a Lich Bane Rush into Shadow Flame 2nd and Void Staff 3rd. For the rune page, it's Dark Harvest with Cheap Shot, Grisly Mementos, and Relentless Hunter, followed by Triumph and Coup de Grace for secondaries. Build priority has shifted on Silas for 25.10 as we are no longer seeing Rod of Ages performing at an optimal level. Rocket Belt was just buffed for this patch, and if you watched our pre-patch tier list, then you'd know that the item gained 267 gold worth of stats. When you factor in that Rod of Ages was recently nerfed and lost gold value, it's really swung things into Rocket Belt's favor. Just going off the analytics alone, Rocket Belt is now winning 4% more than Rod of Ages. However, over 30% of Silas players continue to run the Rod of Ages build, so you need to make the swap over. So Rocket Belt is without question the most optimal rush item for Silas right now, but when it comes down to your second purchase, this is where things get interesting. You honestly have 3 different really good options right now with Shadow Flame, Lich Bane, and Cosmic Drive. So here's how you should prioritize each of the 3 items. Against a majority bruiser or tank comp, go for Cosmic Drive as you're going to need more extended fights to beat more durable targets, so the health and haste from Cosmic Drive synergize as well. Shadow Flame and Lich Bane will be best suited into squishier comps. Shadow Flame will provide more one-shot power, but Lich Bane will offer up better extended fight strength. If you are into a squishy comp and they are not stacking any magic resist at all, value of Shadow Flame will be the highest, but if you do notice Merc Treads being purchased, opting for Lich Bane will work great. For Silas's rune page, if you're up against a more tanky comp, then opting for Conqueror will be the play, but into a heavier squishy comp, go for Electrocute. So despite the build being completely garbage now, Rod of Ages into Liandry's is still the most popular Ahri build in 25.10. This doesn't mean that Ahri is in a bad spot though, because if you're building her optimally, she's actually still very strong. So drop Rod of Ages and go back to rushing Malignance while Lich Bane is back as a great second pickup on Ahri. With Liandry's and Horizon focus getting weaker for this patch, it's opened things up for Lich Bane to come back into meta on Ahri. It was a while ago now, but Malignance into Lich Bane used to be the meta build for Ahri. What makes this setup so strong is the fact that you are a bit less reliant on actually landing your skill shots to deal damage. You've got the Spellblade proc from Lich Bane, so you are looking to weave in auto attacks during fights and deal a good chunk of damage that way. It's just more of a noob-friendly build for Ahri, so it's especially strong if you are new or inexperienced on the champ. For Ahri's rune page, you should be taking Electrocute with Taste of Blood, Grisly Mementos, and Ultimate Hunter, while Mana Flow and Transcendence are for secondaries. There's been a new Smolder build going around over the past few patches, and it consists of rushing Hubris into Infinity Edge 2nd. So much different than the more popular 2-item core that we see being Essence Reaver with Spear of Shojin. In our new ADC itemization course that's up on our website, we actually have a full breakdown of this Hubris into IE core on Smolder, and what we found is that it is the highest DPS 2-item core for the champ. It beats out Essence Reaver with Shojin, and it beats out Essence Reaver with Infinity Edge. Now, of course, the one downside to this setup is that since you aren't building Spear of Shojin, you're more vulnerable to hard engage. So even though Hubris with Infinity Edge deals the most amount of damage, it's not necessarily practical in every single game. If enemy comps lack any dive threat, or if you're paired with an Enchanter support and are confident in your ability to stay alive, that's when going for Hubris with Infinity Edge would be the best. If the enemy comp is just full out dive though, with a Jarvan jungle and Camille top, opting for the tankier build with Spear of Shojin will be better value most of the time. For the rune page with this Hubris into Infinity Edge build, you want to be taking Comet for the Keystone rune so that your Q damage hits really hard in the mid game. So Senna in the ADC role is back in a viable spot for this patch. However, most players are building her wrong. Majority of Senna players are rushing the Collector, but it's performing extremely bad. What's working way better in its place and what you should be rushing if you want to play Senna ADC for 25.10 is Ghostblade. Ghostblade just makes way more sense over the Collector on Senna because the movement speed that Ghostblade provides will heavily outweigh the bit of extra damage that the Collector offers. Senna, being a very vulnerable champion who lacks a gap closer, gets so much value from the Ghostblade movement speed, so it is the item you should be prioritizing. From then on out, Rapid Fire Cannon as a second purchase and Infinity Edge slotted in third works amazing for Senna. The rune page you need to be taking on your Senna ADC consists of Fleet Footwork with Presence of Mind, Alacrity, and Cutdown, while Free Boots and Approach Velocity are for secondaries. So all the talk was around the AP item changes for 25.10, but one change that has flown under the radar a bit more was the buff to Unsealed Spellbook. Zilean is one support who is finding great success with Spellbook for this patch, and it makes a lot of sense. Zilean is a support who really thrives in the mid to late game. His laning phase isn't terrible, but it's definitely not where he excels. So instead of taking a more lane dominant rune like Aerie, opting for the scaling rune in Unsealed Spellbook allows for Zileans to scale even better into the mid game. Being able to swap around summoner spells more often in the mid game will make Zilean's team fight much stronger. So for the full rune page, it's Spellbook with Free Boots, Biscuits, and Cosmic Insight, while Nimbus Cloak and Transcendence are for secondaries. Standard build for Zilean consists of a Shirelia's Rush into Imperial Mandate 2nd, with Solstice Slay as the item upgrade. Camille support is a new build that has been winning a ton over the past 2 patches. It's not Eclipse with Sundered Sky, which is the more popular Camille support support build, as you are rushing Umbral Glaive and going Titanic Hydra second. So with Umbral Glaive buffed a few patches ago, it's a much stronger rush item, and then Titanic Hydra slots in to provide a nice mix of durability and damage. Camille's support is a champion who thrives off of being able to find catch plays from the Fog of War, so Umbral Glaive passive is going to work great for her to clear out wards and make sure you're not sitting on vision. Umbral Glaive providing you with that lethality is also going to make it so that Camille's burst and all-in threat is incredibly strong. Being able to dive in from long range, lock down a priority target, and burst them out is so impactful for solo queue. It's even better if you can pair Camille up with an ADC who has some long range follow-up like Ashe, Caitlyn, Jhin, or Varus. On top of Umbral Glaive providing the additional vision control, you can also grab Sixth Sense in runes so that your vision control is even better. The full rune page is Hail of Blades with Sudden Impact, Sixth Sense, and Treasure Hunter, while Shield Bash and Bone Plating are for secondaries. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So there you have it everyone, those are 10 of the most OP new builds for patch 25.10. Thank you all so much for watching, we'll see you in the next one.